Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to Lazio Lounge. A typical Lazio weekend. Lazio wins on Friday. Inter loses. Milan drop points. And what happened Sunday morning? Your striker, your number 9, crashes against a tram. He's going to be probably out for 2 weeks. Alasdair, there's not the perfect weekend for Lazio. Never, ever, right? If everything goes well, you know that something is going to happen. I don't know. Ciro just came back, did an interview Friday night saying, yeah, lost a lot of time. I need to recover, etc. No, out for an injury. And what an injury.
Yeah, exactly. Scary stuff for Ciro. I mean, if anyone's not kind of caught up on this yet, there was Sunday morning he was driving through Rome. And, well, I think there are slightly different accounts on this anyway, but his account is that the tram went through a red light and smashed into his car. And there are pictures of the car. And my God, I mean, thankfully he was in a massive Range Rover or something with his 2 daughters. But the front of the car was completely totaled, written off. There was several people taken to hospital. Everyone, thankfully, and to be honest, miraculously, seems to be okay, because that's a lot of big machinery smashing into each other at decent speeds by the sounds of things.
And tram in Rome are of iron. They're not of, carbon fiber like the new car that...
It's 19th century trams.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's tough. They're really strong. So that's why Ciro's car has been completely destroyed.
And it hit it enough force to derail it as well. It was taken completely off the rails.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, thankfully Ciro's okay. His daughters are okay. The Lazio statement that came out after that said that he's cracked a rib. Vittorio's the medical expert who knows what the 11th rib means. But
it looks like it's the less important rib, so that should be good. Predictions are he's gonna skip. He's gonna be out for 2 weeks. The issue there, Alasdair, is the pain, basically, because obviously you feel pain if you crack your rib. So it's all due to the pain. Will Ciro be able to play through the injury, play through the pain, or will he ask for an extra week to recover? That's the question mark. And obviously, Torino is coming up, and then there is Inter Lazio. It's not an easy week for Lazio to be without Ciro. Without mentioning, Alasdair, that we were talking before, even Cataldi will be out against Torino. And unfortunately, Torino, it's a challenging opponent. They're not playing great football, but every time they play against Lazio, it looks like they're playing a Champions League final, right? So it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, I mean, with Ciro, I think that we do need to be a bit careful not to treat this one like any other injury, because it is different. Like the manner in which it was suffered is very different, and it does sound like it was a harrowing occasion for him, and the kind of indirect quotes that are being reported of him saying, it was a nightmare and all I could think about was protecting my children and all this. I mean, it's a big, he'll be in shock from this whole thing happening. I'm sure he'll be very grateful that everyone's okay, but I think he might need a bit of time to really mentally recover from that. And on top of that, we should take a moment to appreciate how much bad luck he's had this season, because like you said at the start, he's only just back to he finally scored a goal again. I think, was that his first of the year of 2023? That's first for a couple of months at least, and he's finally feels like he's back in the team, he's back fit again, and then this happens, and he's already had 3 or 4 injuries this season, muscular problems. It's been really stop-start. He's not been able to find any real rhythm. So I think there must be, once the concern, the immediate concern and shock of the instant dies down, I'm imagining he'll be feeling quite frustrated about how this is all going as well.
Yeah, he scored against Salernitana in February, and the first match of the year against Lecce where we lost. But it was funny because Alasdair, he just, after scoring against Spezia at the end of the match, he said, I need to recover. I need to go back to shape, top shape. I'm not there yet, but I mean, my promise is to give everything to try not to miss the next matches. So, yeah, not very lucky for Ciro to get this incredible injury. I mean, this is not something very, very common. The positive sign, Alasdair, is that Felipe Anderson had a great match against Spezia. He's going to be the number 9 for the at least next 2 matches, I believe. So that's positive, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to get a game where you're scoring 3 goals. That's not necessarily been the case in recent months, that Lazio have been able to get that many in a game. One was penalty, obviously, which I'm not totally convinced about, to be honest. But I mean, my God, we need to talk about the second goal. That was probably the most Sarri ball moment we've seen under Sarri in terms of a goal scored. The quick thinking with that, the one-touch passing to basically walk the ball into the net. Obviously, a little bit of a scrappy finish, but it was a wonderful move. And I think it was really a kind of highlights reel moment that shows you where Lazio are at right now, the confidence they're playing with, and the commitment to Sarri's ideas. I think it was all in that goal.
Yeah, but we saw even the worst, I think, in the sense that,
come on,
you had 3-4 chances to shot on target before that. I mean, Ciro could have shot, Felipe Anderson, Luis Alberto, etc. I mean, you don't have to walk with a ball in the goal every single time, right? You can even take your chance. I mean, I was so nervous on that chance because you have to be honest. Spezia started really strong the first 25 minutes, and the second half just started, and you think, well, let's score another one as soon as possible. But yeah, terrific goal, and all starts with Ciro Immobile controlling the ball and letting Luis Alberto come up, and we can be very dangerous if you concede all that space to us. So obviously, great goal, great performance. Shall we mention the third goal? I mean, probably that's even the most surprising one.
Yeah, Marcos Antonio, and there's something we've said. Well, certainly something I've said a lot this season is that when it comes to the squad depth, what you really need is for the guys you're bringing on to take their chances. And it's something that I remember Cancellieri, for example, was very honest about when he wasn't getting game time. He was saying, yeah, it's fair enough because when I've had my chances, I've not taken them. And Marcos Antonio has probably been the guiltiest of this in the squad, other than Toma Basic, in my opinion, because I think he's been pretty disappointing all season and had a lot of chances. But Antonio's obviously taken a long time to settle, to adapt. I think we can give him the benefit of the doubt more with that, given it's his first season. And clearly he's not a physical specimen who's going to be, bashing people out the way. But it was a fantastic goal. It shows what he can do.
Yep.
And just a great moment as well, because I think it was a great moment to showcase the team spirit that there is in this group at the moment, where it's a meaningless 90th minute third goal, really. And the entire team runs up to the goal, the other end of the pitch, to celebrate with him. Everyone's, giving him high five. Providel's picking him up. So, yeah, it was a great moment.
Do you think this is the turning point for Marcos Antonio's season? I mean, he came in, just be honest, he came in just because Vecino wasn't on the bench. Because in the last couple of months, we saw this substitution every time. Cataldi never finished a match, and every time it's Vecino coming in. So Friday, Vecino wasn't on the bench. He has a knee problem. And I was surprised to see Marcos Antonio coming in. I thought maybe he would give a chance to Basic. But after that, knowing that Cataldi will miss the next match, do you think Marcos Antonio has a chance to start?
I think he has a better chance now than he has done the rest of the season because, yeah, he's taken his moment. He's seized his moment, and scoring a one-off worldy goal against a Spezia team that were down to 10 men by then in the 90th minute, that doesn't, let's be clear, necessarily mean that you're automatically the perfect fit for Sarri's strategy.
You're not a Marcos Antonio fan, and you're doing everything to downgrade his performance.
No, but it was a fantastic moment. It shows what he can do. I think one of the questions we got actually is probably a better point to debate, which is Philip Bezzano asking if he'd be better actually as a mezzala than as a playmaker. And because that kind of surge up field to beat the keeper and so on, that's more the move of a mezzala than it is of a regista. And do you think that there's something there? Has he just been played in the wrong position all this time?
No, I think, and you saw it even the Friday against Spezia. He moves the ball very fast. You see that he has the playmaker ability, right? The big difference between him and Cataldi is that he moved the ball faster. And Spezia really struggled to take the ball out of him because he was passing the ball quick. I don't think he has the physicality for playing mezzala. And the big problem, Alasdair, is that at Shakhtar, he was playing with two playmakers, two mediano, as we call it in Italy. One was physical, and the other one was Marcos Antonio moving the ball. With only one, he struggled because we saw him. He's like 176 height, so he's not that big. He's not that strong. And with the Milinkovic-Savic and Luis Alberto close to him, Lazio would be a little bit struggling in the defense phase. So, but I like the player. I really do. I think he has quality, and it's a shame he didn't play that much this season. So, but honestly, I think Torino is the worst team he can start because Torino is very physical. Yeah. Torino has a midfield that is very, very big. And I think that Marcos Antonio will struggle a lot. It reminds me a little bit of...
And they won't sit back either.
No. It reminds me a little bit of Raul Moro, right? The only match he started was against Torino. That is very physical, and Raul Moro struggled a lot. So even though I would love to give another chance to Marcos Antonio, if Vecino is fit, I will start Vecino.
Yeah, well, I think that when we're talking about kind of... I think the first question you asked was, can it be a turnaround for a season? I think it's probably a bit late for that now anyway, because we've only got 8 games to go. But I think what we would like to see is just if he can finish this season with like a positive spin around his name and people feeling optimistic about him, and just show us something in the run-in here to make us believe that over the summer we can see a different player by the start of next season. I think even that would be a success, because he needed something like this. He needed a moment like this to kind of restore the faith, really, from the fan base that there is a player there who can contribute to this team and be useful. Because I think Lazio have been very guilty in the past of, buying in players who aren't really suited to the squads, who are coming from different leagues, and then, judging them after one disappointing season and getting rid of them. And I think with a player like Antonio, who we were quite excited about last summer, you do need to give him that time, a little bit of time. I think if you give a player 2 seasons and they're still not making any progress, then fair enough. Or if, an irresistible offer somehow comes in for him this summer, then maybe they'll take it. But I can't see that happening. So I think that the best case scenario is really just feeling like we're seeing a change from him and an improvement from him. And that doesn't have to be that he is the starting midfielder by the end of the season. I think that's an unrealistic expectation by this point, because Cataldi's been doing really well. Vecino's done well when he's been playing that role too. And the team is playing so smoothly at the moment that you don't want to change big things anyway. So I think that, yeah, if he can even make a few more substitute appearances where he's impressing and we're thinking, wow, that looks great, then could make a difference. And, scoring a goal is the most basic of motivators for footballers. And we've just seen that with Sergej Milinkovic-Savic when he scored against the free kick. Who were we playing again? Oh, God, too many games. Monza, thank you. And then
you're not watching Lazio that much, huh?
So watching it too much. It's just all blended into one. But, we saw him getting very emotional after that and talking about how it was like a release and, it seemed to be a weight off his shoulders, the fact that he managed to score a goal again. So you never know. Maybe this moment of Antonio positivity is going to help him gain the confidence to continue playing well.
We didn't talk a lot about Spezia Lazio. Very important match for me. Great victory. And we didn't mention that Patrick started the match. It was a huge surprise. Casale wasn't feeling very well. So even if it was announced in the starting 11, after the warm-up, Patrick came in. And you can see he wasn't ready. I thought the first 25 minutes, the reason why one of the reasons, to be honest, Lazio struggle was because Patrick made a couple of mistakes. But overall, what's your take on Patrick's performance?
Well, it's another clean sheet, isn't it?
Yep.
So it's hard to be critical. I think that's a really difficult position to be thrown into anyway for any player when it's an injury in the warm-up. Is worst case scenario, really. I mean, obviously, you'd expect anyone to be kind of ready to go at any moment, but it's a mentality shift at the very last moment. I think he's played enough football by now that he can slot in there quite easily. We're not talking about, maybe be more worried if it's Gila or someone who's not played as much this season. But Patrick's become dependable, Vittorio. I mean, he just has. It's a strange world we live in nowadays, but he has become someone we can kind of rely on. And okay, this season he's not been as good as he was last season, but I think we can rely on him to do a job. And going back to it, another clean sheet. It's getting ridiculous now. 18. I mean, I pointed this out on Twitter. It's like 18 clean sheets for even Provedel, who was signed for €2 million to be a backup goalkeeper. I mean, if he's not the signing of the season, he must be up there in this discussion,
Well, he made a great save Friday, but it's not all up to him, right? I think Romagnoli deserves credit. He was on free transfer, and best central defender in Italy at the moment.
Yeah, I know. No, obviously. But what I mean is expectations versus execution, like what we've seen versus what we expected. It's just crazy.
Alasdair, you were saying we're living in a crazy world. Well, Lazio's second now because Juventus was able to lose against Sassuolo, and Milan and Inter are doing everything to drop points in the Serie A. We have to mention, because if Juventus get back the 15 points they have been deducted, as today, there will be 2 points behind Lazio, who is officially second. So this is huge, but leads me to a question. Sarri said Lazio's team is not able to play in Serie A and in Europe. But it looks like even Inter, Milan, Juventus, and Napoli are struggling this way, right? This weekend, all the team that played in Champions League, they didn't win, none of them. And Inter was able to lose at home against Monza. So is Sarri right? Is Lazio, or maybe this discussion should be extended to Inter, Milan, and so on?
Well, I think the proof is in the pudding, as they say. It's you can see that those teams aren't built to compete properly in both competitions anyway. I mean, how many are, to be honest? But, when Pioli changed his entire outfield for that game on, when was it, Saturday, you're looking at that team as well, and you think, I mean, it's a bit of a crazy move anyway to rotate that heavily. But then when you see the team, the second choice Milan team, it's really not very impressive.
Do you think he exaggerated? I mean, okay, turnover, but 10 out of 11, you just keep the goalkeeper. That's a little bit too much.
Yeah, Of course, yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, I think it's crazy because, look, the reality is this: Milan take the Champions League extremely seriously because they're a club with incredible history in that
And I understand
competition.
that.
It's where they feel like they belong. And I was at San Siro on Wednesday. It was an amazing occasion. They really go all out for that competition, and I completely understand that that should be their priority. But yeah, it's more the fact that their second string isn't that strong, and they 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 are not in a position where they can afford to drop points in the league, or else it's going to get really difficult for them. So I think when you look at their Champions League campaign, it's going to be very memorable. They're in a good position to get through to the semis, but realistically, are they going to win it? I mean, they're not going to say they're not going to win it. But if anyone is watching Man City at the moment, for example, you're not seeing that Milan team beating Man City. But I don't know. I mean, I think that it's a tough balancing act. But ultimately, Pioli's running a risk here of essentially sacrificing a Champions League place in Serie A in order for a Champions League campaign that they're not going to win, and then ultimately not end up in that competition next year.
Yeah, which, I mean, I understand it's difficult finding the right balance, but they're not going to win the Champions League this year. I hope they do, but it's going to be very difficult. And if they don't qualify next year, then all this thing will be useless, right? And at the moment, Milan and Inter are struggling because Milan is fourth, Inter is fifth. And if Juventus get the points back, they're both out. So, I don't understand. Makes much more sense what Roma did. I mean, Mourinho doesn't love turnover. We know that. But, he played the starters because yesterday was a key match for Roma. And to be honest, it was a key match for Inter and Milan as well. I mean, losing at home against Monza, we played against Monza a couple of weeks ago. And they're a good team, but they don't look very focused. So for me, Inter should have won that game. And I don't understand if they're doing everything to put Lazio in the Champions League spot. I mean, Pioli and Inzaghi are former Lazio manager, and probably they are paid from Lotito to do that. But I mean, I'm a little bit surprised. They should be more careful. It's true that it's because Alasdair, it's Napoli-Milan. It's going to be really hard for Milan to win it. They have only one goal of advantage, and Osimhen is going to be back. So, I mean, I'm really happy because we had, 10 points from Inter. We are 10 points ahead of Inter. This is incredible, right?
But I think what this is showing as well, though, is that, okay, the conversation around this with Lazio this season was the Conference League or the Europa League. If we don't have a squad that can compete in both, then what's more important to us? And Sarri has ultimately clearly decided Serie A is more important and the prospect of Champions League football. But this, unless they invest in the summer, if say we do get top four, unless they invest, that problem is still going to be there next year. And then what do you do? Because that it's a problem that has become very apparent for Lazio this season, and we're seeing the very clear examples here with Inter Milan of the dangers of trying to juggle a Champions League and Serie A when you're not quite ready. And Inter's squad in particular is definitely better equipped than Lazio's is. So it's a bit of a warning.
I think it's a mental issue. I mean, I don't believe that Lazio's squad wasn't good enough to beat Feyenoord, etc. I think, or AZ in the conference, I think it's the mentality. They played without being 100% focused, which is why Inter lose against Monza. This why Lazio. I mean, we lost 5-1 against Midtjylland. I think. I hope our friend doesn't get disappointed, but maybe the Primavera squad of Lazio could have get a better result against Midtjylland.
Well, God, that seems like a long time ago now. Yeah, I mean, I do feel though it's been a season of evolution, and I feel like the whole kind of atmosphere around the club was quite different back then to how it feels now. And hopefully there isn't a reset at the start of next season. We go back to the old discussions and it's all about squad depth and blackouts and mentality issues and all this. I think it has to be seen as a big opportunity, because if we're Lazio to get Champions League, and okay, maybe we're jumping the gun a bit by talking about this now, but were they to do it, they need to kind of get it right in the transfer market in a way that they haven't in the past. Because in 2015, when we got the playoff place, Lotito essentially waited to see if we would qualify before investing, but we needed investment then, and we didn't. I remember we had to play Keita as a striker against Leverkusen and got knocked out. Then in the last Champions League campaign, it's in the middle of a pandemic, so how much investment can you really do anyway? And also the money that they spent was on Murici, and they got that all wrong, really, considering the needs of the squad. So last transfer market was quite good. I think this transfer market, were we to get Champions League, would be even more important and probably would require a bit more spending as well.
So we don't bring back Murici for the Champions League. That's what you're saying.
Hey, look, one of the form strikers in Europe. I mean,
yeah. Obviously, the squad is not good enough for the Champions League. We need to improve. But Alasdair, one thing we didn't mention is, if you finish second, you're going to get a lot of money. And hopefully that money is going to be spent. And one other important thing we didn't mention is that with the reform of the Supercoppa Italiana, even the second team in Serie A goes and play the Supercoppa Italiana. And that's even more money, right? So that's important. I'm not sure. I'm not saying Lazio will finish second, because it's still a long way to go. But
is the new Supercoppa format starting next year?
I think so, yeah.
The 4-team Saudi Arabian extravaganza.
Yep.
Oh, God. Sarri's not going to be happy about that.
Well, Lotito will. It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine what the press conference is going to be like when Sarri finds out he has to fly to Saudi Arabia in the middle of January for a...
Do you think he's going to drop to third position then?
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, it's a big opportunity. It's a huge opportunity. And look, it's like you said already, we're probably going to find out this week. Well, we will find out this week if Juve are getting the points back or not. It'll be nice to put that behind us. And if they do, Lazio are still in second, which is a remarkable position to be in. Seeing Napoli dropping points, he's starting to look at the Scudetto.
Yeah, we're ready. I mean, basically, Napoli has to not win a single match from here to the end of the season, and we have to win pretty much everyone. So it's true. There's Juventus-Napoli coming next weekend, so but... No, come on. Let's be honest.
I did actually couldn't resist the temptation of just having a quick look at their fixtures to just, just in case. But it's impossible. I mean, they need 3 wins, I think.
Yeah, I think they need 11 points.
Is it as many as 11? Okay. Yeah, and you look at their remaining games, it's like they really.
But
it will take some sort of spectacular collapse and an outrageous winning run from Lazio. So,
but before we wrap it up, Lazio is the best team at the moment in Serie A, or at least the team playing better, right?
Yeah,
can we say this?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, the only comparable teams recently were Juve in terms of form, not in terms of performances, and Napoli, and both of them have dropped off now. I guess Bologna were playing really good recently, but now they've dropped points. No, I think there's no doubt about that, really.
Best defense, one of the best attacks. I mean, and without Ciro. I mean, who would have thought this would have been possible last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. And it's good to see like I said at the start, it's good to see a few more goals being scored. 5-7 in the last 3 games. I mean, it has been a problem generally this year, and I think they're getting a bit more help now because the wingers are scoring more. Zakanyan, Anderson, are finding a few more goals. The midfield is starting to contribute a little bit more. So that just takes the weight off a bit. I think that's good to see.
And we have Ciro and Zaccagni, 10 goals each.
Yeah. That's the thing. We were talking about Ciro's season last podcast, weren't we? And now he's up to suddenly on 10 goals again. I think that's 7 seasons in a row now he's hit double figures, which is not bad going. Nobody else managed that.
No.
So yeah, even in this most disrupted of seasons, he's still finding a way to make a really good goal contribution.
And again, Zaccagni didn't score on Friday, but again, what a performance. He's so dangerous every time he's one-on-one. He's unstoppable. But it was good, Alasdair, knowing that Felipe Anderson will have to play center forward next match, that Felipe had a good match. He's back, I would say. He's encouraging. He's improving after a month or so where he wasn't so brilliant like we were used to.
Do you think we'll ever see Luca Romero again?
Do you think it's related to his contract?
I don't know, but, for so much of this season, he was the first choice, kind of next cab off the rank winger. And now Cancellieri is the one who's getting the 5 minutes at the end.
Because I was thinking, it's very similar to what happened to Luis Felipe, right? Luis Felipe last year was the starter. Then suddenly he finished on the bench.
Do you want to explain what you mean by the contract?
Yeah, well, Luca Romero contract is expiring the 1st of July. And he didn't sign a new contract. There are rumors that the problem is because his agent wants 5 million euros of bonus. And Lotito said, never going to happen this. So it's funny because he has been the first substitution till January. And then after January, when he didn't sign the new contract, suddenly Cancellieri was the first option of Sarri. So the question mark is this because Cancellieri has improved or because Romero is not playing because of his contract status? By the way, there are rumors saying that Luca Romero has changed his agent to sign the new contract for Lazio, but this still didn't happen. So,
yeah, I don't know. I can't really imagine that that's something that would impact the way that Sarri makes his choices. He's a very independent thinker, and the fact that he still has these players available in his squad, I can't really imagine him being swayed too much by stuff that's happening off field. I mean, it might be the case that Romero himself has felt a little bit disconnected, or he's mentally not quite there at the moment because he's unsure about his future or whatever, which is a bit different. But yeah, I think also there's definitely an element of Sarri can see what's working right now, and he doesn't want to change it too much.
I think Cancellieri had a good impact in the last weeks or so.
It would be nice for him to get a goal before the end of the season, speaking of people we want to finish strongly.
Can we say that the handball of Cancellieri was on purpose? He knew that we would not score from the free kick of Spezia?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, guys, thanks again for listening and watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, please rate and review our podcast. And if you want to support us, Lazio Lounge, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Thanks, Alasdair. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Cheers.